Oh, yes, that part too. Thanks, Kelly. Welcome to the Data First Friday webinar. I guess it's not technically, it's just a Friday webinar. I just think of it as First Friday, just more or less so I don't forget. So welcome and Happy New Year to everybody. Hopefully the new year is off to a good and healthy start for most of you. I've already run into a bunch of folks who are a little under the weather, but I suppose it's just the time of year that we're in. So hopefully things find you well. And of course, we're going to talk a little bit about eData and more specifically the template this afternoon. I think I know everybody here, but just in the interest of being thorough, I am Michael McCarty, part of the MIS project, better known as eData Tech Support, housed here at Penn State. And joining us today is Steve Linus, who is also a part of that project, and also Callie from Prolo for support and recording and all those types of things. So we're going to walk you through this afternoon just a brief overview of version 2 of the Access template. Now that version is not yet out yet. It is coming up at the end of this month. So sometime by the end of January, we're going to have everybody have access, and we'll post it in the normal location on the PA Adult Ed Resources website in the eData template section. And then version 3 will come out sometime in May. We'll give you plenty of advance notice for that as well. So since we had your attention this morning and we had planned this before the break, we wanted to give all of you a heads up on what is coming in version 2 of the template. And just to dive right in, and what we're planning to do is, as a quick overview here, is I'll just review some of the items in brief. Steve's going to actually demonstrate some things and show you some real-time template demonstrations. And then at the end, we'll pause for any questions that you may have. So to get back to the template, there are several new items. I say new kind of in quotes because the first item you see on the screen here, the Nrs Reports Page, actually is simply a new location. The Nrs Reports, as you all know and love, Nrs Reports 1 through 4B, have been available in the template for quite some time. So there's no change to those reports. It's simply a different location to really just hopefully improve the user experience and help it make it easier for you to find some things. Since the template and the Nrs Reports, it's kind of like a standalone thing with that set of reports. So that's the thing. Steve will show you how that looks in a few moments. After that, there's the Reports 2 page. And that's a new page that we added last year. Steve added some items on that, and we keep and continuing to build on it. Those of you that have family literacy programming, you'll know that the new family literacy enrollment reports are on that page. And there have been some updates that were in what we called version 1.2. And you got notification if you were in a family literacy agency about that back in December. Those updates will continue into version 2. So those will be there for you as well. In addition to, for everyone, not just family literacy, everyone will have access to a new volunteer query that is on the Reports 2 page. And Steve will explain the details of that here in a minute. Back on the Reports 2 page, where we mentioned earlier where the MRS reports used to live, there are some updates and new additions there as well. There's a new adult report that has some new details Steve will demonstrate. And then also there's a most recent assessment date query that's been added to that page. And finally, on the class group reports page, there is some modifications to the attendance by month query. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to the gentleman who is responsible for everything you see in the template and has been hard at work to get everything ready in version 2. So I've stopped my share, Steve, if you want to go ahead and jump in and do your demo and take it from here.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, as Michael said, we just have a few things that are new. So let's look at the front page. Here has a new button for NRS reports, takes you to a standalone page with all of the exact same NRS reports that you know and love from the original reports page. I spread them out a little bit and enlarged the font and put some numbering into the buttons to kind of help clarify what it was you were pressing, just to make it a little easier to use. Nothing is changed here as far as functionality. You can still select, your agency. I have some made up data in here for an agency and a subcontractor. So this is all the same that it was, and you can also find it from any of the switchboards. All the pages have switchboards, and you can pop it down and select NRS reports and go right to it, just like any of the other pages. On the reports page, which you can get to here or through the switchboard, you'll notice that there's a lot of white space down here where the NRS reports used to be. And I added an NRS reports button. So if you happen to have the habit of going to the reports page, you can just click the NRS reports button and just pop over there. At the beginning of this white space, we added a new report called the most recent assessment date. And this shows all of your students and by their most recent assessment date, which is this column right here. And you can sort and filter and do whatever you want to do with this query. Keeping in mind, and there's a note for this if you go to the description, keep in mind that the second part, if multiple assessment subtests were administered on the most recent date, only detailed information about one of the subtests is displayed. It's just too hard to weed out all of that. So we just made the decision to leave it at actually it's the first one. So anyway, we're hopeful that that is a query that you'll find useful. And also on the reports page, I modified slightly the adult data record, which you select your agency and then you select your student, and then you run the report, which I have an example of right here. And then in the center of this report where it shows the assignments, the class group pair names here, it breaks out the total hours for that exact class group pair, and then lists them all here. And you can get your total instructional hours as before, just right up above it here in the system data section as well. So that was a change to that report to make it easier and more functional to use. And also, as you're selecting the adult, I modified the order of the selection here so that it now sorts it by last name, first name. So if you start typing in the last name, it'll take you right to that student. Much easier to use. Then over on the reports 2 page, we added a new query called volunteer count with hours greater than 0 by direct agency. And what this does is, I'll run it, it counts your aides and tutors, and it groups them. You'll see that they are counted with hours greater than 0 or with hours greater than equal to 12 for classroom aides, and then group tutors, same criteria, and pair tutors, same criteria. And then this is a new addition. It's an unduplicated group and pair tutors counted with hours greater than 0. And that's to be compared with the total group and pair tutors with hours greater than 0. And then this last column, the volunteer count by direct agency, is a number that previously was or is available in the report that's right above it, the volunteer count here. But what it counts is everyone who has the volunteer box checked in eData. That's just a straight count. And so that's on the reports 2 page over on the left side in the volunteer section, and is marked with a new flag as well. And as Michael pointed out with the family literacy section, the change that I added for the family literacy reports included the adding of all the parenting hours and ILA hours for multiple family members. In other words, people with the same family code and family PK, so that they can get the benefit of having more than one parent when it comes to tracking the hours. And last but not least, over on the class group page, there's a small change to the class group attendance by month. And it looks like this, and just a minor modification with this total class hours column. We used to be over here and it wasn't labeled as nicely. So I just put them together and I justified all the numbers so that when you look down the column, it's much easier to read, and then change these two headers so that you could understand what you're looking at. So that is that's the summary of all of the changes we had for this upcoming release. Are there any questions?
Steve, it's Kim Topper.
Yeah.
My name's coming up wrong on the Zoom, but I have a question on the assessment by date. Does that give you the assessment if you're doing, like, let's say you do a reading and a math and it's only going to show one assessment? Is it going to show you the one that needs the gain?
No, there's no other logic. It's just that was the new report on the reports 2 page, was it?
Yes.
This one?
No, the assessment. Go back to the assessment.
This one,
The
most recent assessment date.
Yes.
Yeah, no, the logic in here has nothing to do with anything else except for the date. So it's from here you might have to dig a little, especially if there's multiple assessments on the same date. But it does give you that date. That is the most important piece, is that this first student was tested on 10/13. That was the most recent assessment across all of their assessments. Does that answer it, Kim?
Yeah, yeah, it does, but like we assess a lot of our students with math and reading in a team.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so one or the other may need the gain. I guess from a post-testing standpoint, this most likely would be the one that needs the gain. I'm just thinking of it from a pre-testing standpoint, where you're going to probably have to look to see which one. Like, there's other reports I can run to show me this. I just wondered if this would have been like more of a down and dirty review.
Well, we send us some, or call us, and we can modify or add as needed. So, any other questions?
I'll add to. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Barb.
I was going to say, I have heard Amanda say this year that it's not just their low. If a student goes up a level, regardless of whether it's their lowest level or entry level, that would count as well this year, where it didn't last year. So is that still true?
The NRS reporting for assessment gains has actually been the way you described it for some time. If you were to look in the NRS Technical Assistance Guide and look up their definitions of how educational gains can be reported by states, you'll see that the definition includes ed gain across different subtest areas.
Okay.
I won't comment really more beyond that, because I'll probably be stepping out of my lane if I do, but basically, so obviously what you've heard from this division already this year, I think most people are familiar with that. What I'll say while we're on the topic is that we have not changed the template. I think most of you know that the template still functions much like eData, with the highlighting of the lowest EFL assessment among the pretest assessments. So what you'll see is you'll see a limitation in some areas, limited to just those tests for EdGain, or highlighting or some kind of, there's so many different queries. It's hard to say there's one consistent way, but depending on the query, you'll see different things. And those of you that have been in the template before and have looked at how it functions with how it displays and filters and sorts assessments, you'll already know that. You're very familiar with that. Nothing from that perspective has changed. And so to take it a step beyond and go back to your question, Kim, as well, on the on-screen report here, we're not going to release this for another couple of weeks. So if there is something that any of you sort of think of or think would be helpful to build upon anything that you've seen this afternoon or just anything else, we can take a look at adding other items to this. I can't make promises that we can do everything upon every request, or that maybe it would have to wait till version 3. But if we can sneak it into version 2, it's kind of like what Steve said, the door is always open for everybody to give us a call, and we can tweak and adjust as needed, because certainly your ideas and your guidance as to what's useful to you on a day-to-day basis is invaluable. So certainly that's always an open door policy. So hopefully that addresses, Barb and Kim, your questions and thoughts.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
It looks like Lorene said in the chat that she is a fan of the new NRS report location. So that's
Thank you.
a good compliment for you. What we can do is we can wrap it up. I would imagine many of you have a lot to catch up on. If you're like us, we're still feeling like we're just getting back into the office this week. But we can linger here for a few minutes as folks trickle out. And if you want to just remain behind, have a quick question, something like that, we can stay on for a few minutes, certainly. Otherwise, that's all we have for you today. So hope that you all have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you again in another month.